Hi, I'm Patty.
I'm Kim Michelle.
And I'm Jill. Welcome to our podcast. It's a great day to talk.
Because honestly, what day isn't a great day to talk?
So join us in our conversation.
A Great Day to Talk is brought to you by St. George Design, offering complete website design, social media management, search engine optimization, Google and Facebook ad management, and many other digital and print marketing services. stgeorgedesign.com. And by Richardson Brothers Custom Homes, third-generation builders who have been building custom homes in southern Utah for over 25 years. They will take your dream home from concept to completion. Contact richardsonbrothers.com.
Reunited
And it feels so good.
Reunited and
it's understood.
There's one perfect thing, and sugar,
This one is it.
We all are so excited because we're
Reunited, hey, hey.
I missed you, guys. I love you, and I missed you so much. And I'd love to say that I'm so 100% happy to be back, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm 100% happy to be back with you guys.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But this temperature difference is striking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the lovely shores of Maine to the lovely desert of St. George, Utah. It is quite striking. I did wear my Harpswell Maine t-shirt here today to point out that I was where it was not hot. Mm-hmm. And while I didn't
And
miss
where
you,
we weren't.
where you guys weren't,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And where my heart is.
What?
Because it's the ocean. Well, just because of the landscape and the.
What do you think about that?
And I think Jill, I don't think you could live there full year.
No, I know.
No. She would be missing us come
But
November.
how nice to be able to go and spend Greece, the best time of year.
It is the best time of
Yeah.
year. I told Judd that.
Especially when it's the hottest here.
Oh, it's like leaving the nasty winter of St. George, which AKA is really more like the summer, the nasty summer, and going to your summer place. I told Judd it's not too long before I stay there all summer.
Yeah, when are you buying that place? Because Patty and
Yeah, because I could come.
you guys, we could come.
Yeah, we could come.
Of course. We
are
about,
coming.
It's not about buying for us because, of course, we'll never live there full time because of, the cold and the snow and the humidity. But that is the plan, is for me to spend more time there so my peeps can come.
Well, that's a great plan.
I love that.
Yeah, that's
8
a good
weeks
plan. Yeah, that's a really good plan.
Don't you think?
Love it.
Because then we could just hop on over to Nova Scotia,
Where your
where my peeps
ancestral
are.
peeps
Yeah,
are.
and I'm sure that I have many peeps on the Nova Scotia side that
Would love that.
they might house you. They might not house me.
Right.
Tracy, I'm calling you, Tracy.
Tracy would probably
so
house
I could
me.
come and spend time in Nova Scotia with you.
Yes.
Because I love it. You guys, I'm so happy to be back.
We're happy to
with
have you.
I
Yeah, we
missed
are.
you. Thank you so much for allowing me, especially last week, time to hang with my fam.
Last day.
The last
Oh my
night.
gosh, of course.
Of course, yeah.
It's always kind of a sad day for me. The last day, my son said, as soon as we got back, he said, well, welcome to our 2-year visit to St. George.
That's great.
Then we go back to Maine. We go every other
Yep.
summer, and it's a beautiful.
Well, and it gave us an opportunity to have Scott here, which
yeah.
was
So
so
great.
fun. So,
and
yeah,
you
it
guys
was
were so
great.
sweet. You said some lies about me, and I really appreciate those lies.
Well, you'll pay
Well,
us
we were just
later.
trying to make you look good.
Yeah,
you
you'll
guys,
pay
thank
us
you.
later.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank you. Well, so okay. We're
Episode
back.
14.
Episode 14.
I know, it's so
It's so fun for us.
It's
Yeah.
so crazy, and I love it so much, and I'm so excited. Again, we're here together as friends. Patty, my dear friend, Kim Michelle, my dear friend, me, your friend Jill. We love to talk, and that's one thing I've missed so much, is being able to sit down and chat. We chat about everything. We talk about life, love, happiness, disappointments, frustrations, tears, families, books, reading, school, teaching,
Whole gamut.
all of the
All of
things.
it. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I asked you guys if we could talk about coming back today with with this first episode back together is this whole concept of letting go of toxic emotions, toxic relationships, toxic people that have come into our lives that are causing us such angst and sadness. And what are how do we work through that? What are some of the things that we together as the Brain Trust have experienced in our lives, and how do we work through those things? Because I mean, truth be told, I've got some feelings that I would love to, gracefully let go of. And I love talking with you guys about all this stuff. So let's talk about that today.
Yeah, let's do.
I love letting go of negative energy. It's super rewarding, and it feels like a weight. And sometimes I think we hold stuff that we didn't even know we were holding.
For sure.
Until, however we get rid of it, it goes away.
Right.
So I think we have to have places that are safe to release. However we do that. It could be release on the treadmill, get in your car and drive and scream, break glass, whatever it is that you do. Talk to your friends. What are some of the ways we release? Actions.
Well, some of the things that I've been reading about, and these are things that I am completely clear on, and it's easy for us to talk about it when we're in our calm heads, right?
Right, when you're here,
yes,
and it's safe, and
yes,
everybody loves you.
Yes,
and,
and when you're in your moment, or when you're in a situation that is bringing you great grief and sadness, frustration, anger. I read, some of the negative emotions. There's like 5 major negative emotions. There's anger, fear, resentment, frustration, and anxiety. And I hold a lot of anxiety. I hold a lot of fear, which leads into anger, which leads into frustration, which a lot of the time also leads into resentment. And, there's the ways of, one of my favorites is, the mantra, creating a mantra that you can repeat in your head. There's creating some physical distance, which definitely is something that helps me. There's working on our own self and our own baggage around whatever's happened. We've got practicing mindfulness. That's one of the things that, I've just recently read a book with one of my other friends called When Things Fall Apart.
Wait, you have other friends?
Well, just when
now
I'm
I'm in resentment. I'm angry, and I'm.
Should we create a distance? Or?
It's only when I'm cheating on you.
Right.
Just kidding. But it's called When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, and she's a Buddhist monk, a contemporary, and the book is fantastic around practices of letting go and how to work through chaos and other situations. And I've also, while I was in Maine, started to read some snippets of a Zen master, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk named, let me see if I can pronounce it correctly, Lek Nakt Han. And I know I've probably slaughtered that name, and I apologize to him and to all the people that know I've slaughtered it.
Well, he's a master, so he'll be fine.
He's already let it go.
Yeah,
he's already let it go.
I don't think he's going to hang on to that one.
He's already Elsa'd that.
Elsa.
He has totally let that go.
Yes.
Let it go. Let it go. Maybe that's what we need to do. Is that has to be one of the steps to managing negative emotions is singing
Let It Go.
Yeah.
I love that.
If you've ever seen my little nephew, maybe we'll post it.
Oh, Wilkie.
Yeah, he, my sister's son, he is on the spectrum, but I'm telling you, he's going to do a Broadway rendition of Let It Go. And he thinks he does it every day in his family room.
He is
and
fantastic.
it is amazing. So anyway.
So he likes me too.
It's Jill's boyfriend.
It's my little other boyfriend. He's so stinking cute.
I think he's
but
8.
I
7.
think that is a great song, right? I mean, I think that's
it really is.
In my own way, I could create that as a mantra. But there's lots of ways, engaging in self-care, accepting that the other person may not ever apologize,
Probably won't.
probably
actually.
won't
And if the
apologize.
expectation is that that person will apologize, and that's what you think you need in order to be able to heal and move forward, then I'm going to suggest to you that you're going to be waiting a really long time to heal. So if healing is your priority, then you get to choose to move forward without the apology, because the
Absolutely.
person, if they're a toxic person in your life, and we're going to come back and talk about what's the difference between like just somebody who shows up negative in your life and somebody who is really toxic. But if they're a really toxic person in your life, then the chances that they would ever show up with a real and genuine apology to you are practically non-existent. So if that is what you feel like you need in order to move forward, you get to realign what you need to move forward, or otherwise 20 years from now, you're going to still be stuck in the place you're stuck right now because you're still waiting for an apology that never came.
Agreed. Agreed. And that's honestly, like you said, the chances of that happening are so slim. It's probably like odds in the lottery
Well,
for
and
certain
that's,
situations.
you know, that's one of the phases I have is, you know, release. But the second thing is you have to allow other people to be who they're going to be.
Right.
One, we can't control any of that. So
Right.
if they are whatever, offending us or
Hurting.
us or whatever it is they're doing, we just have to, okay, I'm going to allow you to be like that. But I also get to choose
Exactly.
how to respond or how
Exactly.
to distance myself or whatever it is.
I'm a choice around those things that I get to choose into in order to protect myself and in order to create a space for me to be able to show up as my best self. They get to make their own choices. I can't choose for them.
Right.
I can only choose for me. And if I'm waiting on their choices, then I'm giving all of my personal power to the person whose choice I'm waiting on.
Wait a minute. KM, you're not in charge of everything?
Or other people.
Other people?
Well,
What?
I am, but the rest of the world
Right.
is not.
We're not, but just you. Okay. Good to know.
I just want to clarify that because did something change while I was gone the last 3 weeks?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea of having that negative energy in your space, and especially when you didn't anticipate it showing up,
Right.
Yeah.
and you're not quite sure what to do with it because it was so, it's
Sudden.
and it kind of sideswiped you for sure.
Yeah. Unexpected.
Yeah,
And
unexpected.
a big part of the whole experience that you were anticipating. So a while ago, I don't remember what episode it was, but we did an episode on when things don't show up the way that you think they're going to show up.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we talked about then are still very relevant to this conversation, because that's part of what happened here that kind of gave us the opportunity to delve into this topic a little bit more, is that things definitely didn't show up the way that one would have maybe thought that they were going to. And from that space, then it became very toxic very quickly. And so it was kind of like one thing on top of another.
Right.
And then how do you get yourself into a place where you can reground yourself so that you can still move yourself forward, even though that's unresolved and probably will not be resolved necessarily between the two parties. And here's what I would say. It doesn't have to be, because the other person is probably never going to come to the resolution table,
Right.
because they don't want to. For
No,
whatever
a lot
reason.
of people like to sit in that negative.
That's right.
And then they just sit and then justify and blame. And then
Shame.
it's shame and blame. And it's so hard. It's harder on them, you know. If you want to be a slave, harbor your resentment. And if that other person is harboring that resentment, they're a slave to that.
Totally.
Where
That's-
you and
I
all
gotta
of
write that
us
down.
get to choose to
Be free from that.
be free from that.
Say that again, Patricia.
If you want to be a slave, harbor your resentment.
Yeah.
To be
Because you're a slave to that, and that's going to sit with you. And it comes off in so many areas of that person's life when they are storing that resentment and hate or anger or whatever it is that is happening. So we all have to
Wow.
find ways to release that.
And I think
need that.
that's
I need
so
to have a
powerful
tattoo
too,
of
because
that.
if we really truly understood and embraced that, then eventually we can probably choose into some level of compassion for that person, because gosh, what a painful life to live, that you are so full of resentment that you are probably pushing every ship from shore, right?
Right.
Every relationship you have is unmoored, is ungrounded, is lost to sea, because you are so committed to your resentment.
Right.
And
So what I think we need to jump back to, Kim Michelle, is that we have to let go of that negative energy too.
Yeah.
So whether there's 2 parties, 3 parties, depending on if somebody got their feelings hurt and the other person hurt those feelings, that person feels justified in it. This person has to figure out how to let go of that hurt and negative stuff.
for them.
For them.
them.
And there's nothing you can do about that person. You just have to allow it and also recognize they're probably not going to let go of it and they're worse off. So bringing it back to, we have to be able to release that.
So we're kind of, it's really not Kim Michelle in control. It's actually each one of us in control. Sorry to take that
Okay,
power
fine.
away. Sorry
Yeah.
to take that power away. Okay.
Well, and Jill, and I think you need to circle back and read some, or tell us some of those ways in which you were saying we could do that.
Yeah. And maybe before we go there, let's just take a moment and talk about what is the distinction between people who show up maybe negative in your life and people who show up toxic, because they can be one and the same.
For sure.
If you have somebody in your life who is constantly just showing up in a negative space and with a negative energy, that can bleed into this toxicity in your life. And you can have people who, in a general sense, may not show up negatively in the world, but when it comes to their relationship with you, for whatever reason, it is very toxic.
They bring out the
For
worst.
whatever.
They bring out the worst in you. You
For
bring out the
whatever
worst
reason.
in them.
Yeah.
Or
So-
suck complete energy, just
Suck
wear
the
you
life.
out
Yes.
because they
Uh-huh.
suck the life out of you. Yeah.
Right after, yeah.
Yeah, so somebody could be negative and they're complainers. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, somebody
the difference
could be
between,
Eeyore.
Yeah.
They just could be an Eeyore
It
out
was
in
going
the
to
world.
rain on me
Debbie Downer.
anyway.
They're
yeah.
just that they
Debbie
see
Downer.
the world through a perspective or a prism that is negative in their world. And usually some of that can be somewhat of a predisposition or personality trait. But I think most of that is more that they've been groomed that way somehow from their own childhood through. They choose to see the world that way so that they're not disappointed. Maybe that they were hopeful at one time in their life and they've been disappointed and disappointed and disappointed. So they think the way to avoid that disappointment is to never hope for anything to be positive or forward moving. So they always see the sky as falling.
We hear that or that phrase, looking at life, the glass half full versus the glass
half empty.
and that is a pretty that
Yeah,
would be
and,
a good
and,
way to think of it
and
too.
people who are negative or bring negative energy, they're not fun to be around either.
Right.
But it's less difficult than a toxic person. Is that what you're?
Yeah, because I think if you see the world in just general terms as a place that is somewhat hostile, someone that like I like to think of it as, if you're a negative person, you probably think that the universe, whatever you call that greater power, is not aligned for your greater good. Okay. And so the things that happen out in the world are not necessarily aligned for your greater
They're
good.
against you.
Right. They're working
The world is
against
against
you
me.
versus working for you. So I think that is maybe somebody who just shows up with life is out kind of to get me. I think that's different from someone who brings a toxic energy into your life and into your space, because I think somebody who chooses into that has gone beyond the space of, I just think that life is kind of gloomy and out to get me. I think they believe that they have to be out to get somebody else, that they have to, in order for them to attempt to elevate themselves in the world in some way, that they have to minimize someone else.
Okay.
And in that space then of minimizing someone else, they don't care what it sounds like. They don't care what they have to do in order to make that happen. They don't care what they say. It doesn't have to be true. It may be true for them in their head, but only because they've made it true in their head in order to justify whatever story they've told themselves. So I think those people who tend to show up toxic, it's personal. Negative people, I think it's circumstance driven, right? The circumstances around me are just gloomy all the time. I think toxic people, it is person driven. It is a person or personality, and at that point, you are the enemy, and I must destroy you.
Kind of, yeah, that's...
Now, if you ask them, they would say, no, I'm protecting myself and I'm protecting the people that I care about. They probably would not say that
They were a toxic
that is
person.
right, or that they're intentionally attempting to demean you or...
You know,
but in my experience, yeah.
That's heavy
yeah.
because life is hard enough without alienating and pushing away and hurting others. And I get why we do. I mean, Lord knows that I've done my share of hurting others, intentional or not.
Here's what I
I'm
think.
going to have to say no on that. That's not a thing.
Here's what I think is the difference. I think a toxic person will say maybe one thing even to you, but will say something completely different, designed specifically to alienate you from the other people that are in your sphere. That is the goal and agenda. That to me is toxic. That is different than just somebody who is negative about life and the world around them.
That's when you really probably have to do a lot of being gentle with yourself and allowing those negative emotions of that person to just kind of flow right over you like a duck.
And maybe some sage.
And a lot of sage.
Maybe just sage out that area. Yeah.
I mean, those are the people in your life where you get to say that there are people in my sphere. Like if your relationships are a target and the people in the very center of that target are the ones that are in the closest, I don't mean relationship, because unfortunately, some of the people who may be toxic to you might actually be in close relationship to you. But if the ones that are in the center of that target, in that bullseye, are the ones that you have close relationships with, then as you go out to the outer rings, you would have then, the farther you go out, the less closeness of that relationship. Those people that are truly toxic, no matter where they are on the relationship spectrum, whether they're actually somebody who's related to you or has been a long-term friend, but they're now in this toxic kind of relationship for whatever reason, it's time to move them from wherever they were to the outer rings for
space.
your own sanity and for your own good health. Now, you can still choose to be in a loving space and create an opportunity for them to come back in, but they've got to make some serious choices on their end.
Right, because it's not healthy. I was just going to say a few years ago, I decided quality over quantity.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And that's how you ended up with us.
And
Quality.
yep.
But it's true, really, when you think about what the feelings and emotions are when you're younger. At least for me, I just wanted to be everybody's friend. I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted everybody.
Oh, yeah.
From
Didn't matter who.
From the meanest girl to the nicest girl to I wanted everybody to like me.
Oh, for sure.
And
I kind of still do.
Was that yesterday?
that
I think I just wrote that yesterday.
I still kind of have that
Why
issue.
Why doesn't the mailman like me?
well, but seriously, that like all the people, and I know this for you guys too, the people that we have in our lives are definitely quality loves. And yes, Patty, I'm with you. There are still a million places in my life where I want to be liked. I want to be liked. And it's hard when you, for whatever, realize that we can't all like each other. You know?
Well, and I've actually was just going to say there's friends of mine that are quality friends that I don't get to spend a lot of time with too, that I used to maybe spend more time with, but I don't get to anymore. And for whatever reason, life, happens. But there are definitely, where do I want my energy to be put?
Yeah.
And when you do spend time with those friends, is it like you were just with them yesterday?
Yeah, it's not even a big deal. Yeah, for sure.
Always picking up where you left off.
Yeah.
Which is what I love about the people in my life, because that is how it rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick up where we left off. And so, the ones that bring about the negative and the pain and the emotions that don't serve us, it's at this age, don't you find you just don't invite that drama into your
life? And that's where you release that. You have to be able to release be able to release, it's okay if they don't like me, because I'm okay on my own, or it's okay that I'm going to allow them to be like that, and that's going to be their narrative. I know a different narrative.
Yeah. This is their journey to figure out.
So I'm going to release
I
that.
don't need to be a warrior in their journey.
I
I'm going to let them have their own hero journey here right now, and
Thank
I
you,
don't
Joseph
need to
Campbell.
be a part of their epic. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a really, in thinking about ways to let go of those negative and toxic emotions and people that venture into our space. I found this really interesting website. It's called theverywellmind.com. And the people that write for this website, everything that's written is reviewed by the board. And the people on the board are like psychiatrists, psychologists, mindfulness teachers, internal medicine physicians, pediatric specialists, neurologists, meditation specialists, and they all come from a mix of Western and Eastern medicine and practices. And they talk about these ways of creating a more centered life for yourself, which is letting go. And so some of those things that I mentioned before, ways to navigate and manage negative emotions, came from that site. They also talked about how we can't extinct those negative things and push them aside and not recognize them. And hold, because you can compartmentalize everything and put it in a box and set it aside, because eventually that stuff comes back and has to come out in some shape.
If you're, and we know now, doctors, all of the people
all
you're
of these
talking
people,
about know that the mind-body connection is what creates health. And if we have stored negative energy, that turns into illness.
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to fix our mind and release those negative toxins that are negative emotions.
Right.
Or we're not going to be
absolutely
healthy.
And that was one of the things that was fascinating to me, was this concept of mindfulness within all of these areas, engaging in self-care, being mindful that you need to take care of yourself. Mindfulness around allowing those negative energies to flow over you. So all of these suggestions that they made, creating physical distance, doing your own work, they're all centered around being mindful about that emotion and that feeling and that hurt or pain or whatever that you're experiencing. And so for me, this concept of mindfulness is really, it's come up a lot for me in the last little while. And like I mentioned before, I've been reading a little bit more about it. Another person that's on the board, his name is Mike Bayer, and we're familiar with him because we've read a book by him called Best Self, Coach Mike. And if any of you have not read that book, it's a fantastic book around who are we going to show up as? And we can't always show up as our perfect best self, but when we recognize what our negative self looks like, who do we choose? Do we choose our best self or do we choose our negative self? And that really, that mindfulness practice right there, it's been a really interesting thing to have these things really coming in my space right now.
And one of the things I love about that conversation about best self or highest self or authentic self and your anti-self or not best self is that there isn't a judgment about which one is showing up. It is just a mindfulness practice about stepping back and saying, you are at choice here. You are at choice. So which of these is showing up, and is that an intentional choice on your part? And if it isn't, then would you like it to be? And if you want it to be an intentional choice, then what do you choose now? So I love that whole concept. And in fact, as I go back into the classroom.
Yay, Mrs. Poland.
So
by the way,
many
Mrs.
of
Poland,
you know.
Wait, Mrs.
Yes,
Poland, can I turn this assignment in late? Can I turn this in
Can
late?
you turn that assignment in
May
late?
I please turn this in late?
Well, I don't know. We're going to have a conversation about, is that your best self or is that your anti-self that's talking to me right now?
Right.
And we're going to have a conversation about that because I am so excited to be going back in the classroom and
we
being
are
teaching
excited
again.
for those kids to have you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I'm definitely bringing these types of concepts back into the classroom, and I'm really excited to see how they play out.
Well,
and
concepts
when the
like
kids hate
accountability
them,
and
I don't care. I'm still bringing them into the classroom because, concepts around victim responsible and concepts around, quality-based standards that we're going to perform to in the classroom. And those types of things. So
civility, like you mentioned earlier.
civility is going to be one of the, when we walk into my classroom, this is one of the practices we're in, is a practice of civility. So
Right.
Which could lead into, does lead into just what we're talking about. Are we going to be the negative/toxic? Are we going to show up in civility?
Yeah.
And when we choose to not show up in civility, how are we going to adjust that?
yeah, exactly. And I think the first part is exactly what you're talking about, which is a mindfulness practice.
Yes.
And the first part of mindfulness is to have an awareness around where you're at right now in this moment. What are you choosing and why are you choosing it? And does that choice serve you? And if that choice doesn't serve you, then what are the other choices that you could make that would serve you better?
Yeah.
And I just think that's such a powerful conversation.
Those kids are so lucky to have you come
Aww.
in. You have all sorts of great magical insight. I think that's fantastic.
I need to take your class actually.
Yeah.
But Kim, Michelle, and Jill, I think mindfulness has to be practiced. It's practiced all day, every day, so that you can step back before you become your worst self. For me, I can just be reactive and I show up as my worst self. And I don't give myself that time to go, oh, how should I show up? Because I'm so emotionally charged at the time. So, but because I don't practice that mindfulness and take note, okay, how am I feeling right now? Because there are, I really do believe that there are small hints that you're heading into an emotional reactive state.
We all know what those are, whether we want to admit it or not.
Right. So for me, I need to be mindful of how I'm feeling steps ahead of my emotional charge so that I have a place to choose to show up as my best self.
Yeah.
And that's a definite, nudge for me this week is to start practicing some of that mindfulness.
It's the practice.
Because that's really hard. You can't just do it unless you've been practicing.
And that's a huge awareness. It really is. And I would encourage to in that moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to step back here. That's exactly when you remove yourself. That's when you want to take some time to say, okay, what led up to my decision to remove myself? What was I feeling? What was the conversation? What was escalating for me? Because it's in that moment that you'll start to see the patterns and you'll start to recognize them sooner.
We call those timeouts.
Yeah, well, that's what I have right here. Put yourself in time out.
It's one of the best.
That's one of the things I have here.
Yeah.
As well as Elsa is put yourself in time out.
It's a behavioral management.
Yeah.
101 is putting yourself in time out and saying, okay, I'm going to have to step away. We talked about that about Babs.
Yeah.
Abby, your daughter, she does that. I'm going to have to get back to you. I'm going to have to think about this. I think that's a fantastic tie-in to, giving yourself that break, kind of like bumpers on a bumper car before you go crashing into something, let your bumpers slow you down.
So, Jill, I have to give you credit for something. This last spring, I was having some negative energy around a coworker. It wasn't you.
Oh, dang it.
I know.
And it wasn't me because I wasn't a
because we weren't
coworker.
working. But I could not get past this issue of just couldn't. I'm like, oh, everything bothered me. Everything they said was dumb, and I was so stuck, and it just sat right here, and I just couldn't even get past any of it. And I wasn't really recognizing it. I just thought I was justified in not liking this person or not honoring where they were. And you said, you probably need to figure out how to get rid of some of that negative energy around that person.
Did I?
And you said it, and I went, oh, I probably do, because I'm not getting past this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to a gal that does some energy work, and she, with, I wrote all the things that were bothering me. And of course, writing is a great way to release some of the
really
energy.
great way.
And of course, I burned that later.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I ripped it up. I just shredded it up.
Yep.
And she said, release. That's what I did. And then she said, you have to allow that person to be how they are because you're not in control. And then if you want to respond to them, do it private, energetically. Do it with someone else, or just get rid of that energy around them on your own. Like, talk about it to them, but not to them.
Right.
So that when you do go to talk to them later, if you can, you don't have that energy around it. And it, honestly, my thumbs even stopped hurting after I did that. They're starting to hurt again. I probably need to call her. but him. Yeah. And I think, having such a good friend, and I have you two, and I have other friends who are good at calling me out on my crap. Which I appreciate, because that's what a good friend is. That's a kind friend.
That's a kind friend.
That's an honest, kind friend. But, you just saying, you probably ought to work on that because you're not getting past this. And then I became that negative person.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
the thing. When you hold that energy, it's really hurting you.
And my friend. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't want to go to lunch with you because all you do is talk about this thing. No. But yeah, I never want to be that person. And I'm grateful that you said, go work that out.
Wow.
So thank you.
Wow. I don't even, gosh, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank
for
you.
that. No,
And
thank
that
you.
is one of the
thank
main
you.
things.
No, you.
Okay, love fest. That is one of the main things, is to step back and give yourself some time before you respond to some type of negative feedback that you've received, which that's all that is. It's just feedback. It doesn't
mean
it
truth.
doesn't mean anything until you attach some kind of meaning to it. Right. So all you've received is some feedback. So step back and don't respond. Give yourself a safe place to deal with those emotions. Rant if you need to rant. Write
Just
a
don't
letter.
push send.
Write.
Don't push send.
Don't do that. And I honestly, there's some pretty good research. I know a lot of people now only write on their devices, but there actually is some pretty good research around the difference between writing on your electronics versus writing pen to paper.
That cathartic thing.
Yes.
I bet.
So if it really is for an emotional type of response, release or something like that, I would encourage you to pen to paper. Write. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about punctuation. None of that. And then destroy it, like Patty talked about. Either rip it up or burn it or whatever. Just destroy it, because in that moment, you're going to release those words, that energy, whatever. You're going to release it to a power greater than you, because that power can resolve it. And you're just going to release that energy and release those words, release all of that to something bigger and greater than you. And then when you do have a chance to talk to them, if you have that opportunity, then, use some humor if you can. That always goes a long way. Try to see maybe where they were coming from in the conversation if you can, and come from a place of responsible, not blame, not shame, not guilt. But yeah, when I heard that, here's how I chose to respond. And I didn't respond very well.
Help me understand.
Yep, exactly.
Well, those are all great thoughts.
So what would be, I know the gentle nudge for me is to become more mindful about how I become emotionally charged.
Okay, so should I emotionally charge you a couple times this week so that you have the opportunity
Yes,
to
I
be
can
in
practice
practice?
it. Yeah.
Perfect.
No, I think
I'm such a
I
good
have
friend.
enough people in my life that already do that. So I think I'm good on that. Now I just need to be aware of what is happening in my body.
Great. I would say my gentle nudge this week would be one of the ways to move yourself through those toxic or those negative feelings and emotions is to practice the same kinds of elements of be kind that you would do for other people, and to do them for yourself. So if you have negative self-talk going on in your own head, I'm going to encourage you this week to be in the practice of, would I say something that my negative self-talk is saying to me right now? Would I say that to Jill, or would I say that to my good friend Patty? Right. No way in a million years would I say half the stuff that's going through my own head that I'm saying to me. Would I say that to my good dear friends here? No. If I would not say it to them, then shame on me if I choose to say it to me. So then relanguage all of that in a way that loves me and embraces me in a more holistic way.
That's awesome. My gentle nudge is to do a quick little dive into what mindfulness really is, and see how it fits, or how it could fit. It's an easy little Google search.
I love that. And I'm sure we're going to do a more in-depth dive into mindfulness somewhere down the road here in a fully dedicated podcast.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Blue Bowl.
Blue Bowl.
Okay. You guys go first.
What made me smile most this week? Well, it was my 30th wedding anniversry last week.
Yes.
So that was fun. And
anniversary.
that was awesome. And what made me smile? Well, a lot of things, but my husband was sick on the actual day of the anniversary. So we didn't open presents till about 4 days later, because
he was really sick.
Yeah. And I had put his present inside a stuffed animal, but he had put mine inside the same stuffed animal. So he handed me the present, and I said, "No, that's your present." And he's like, "Wait, no, that's your present." So it was funny. Anyway,
it was so
we opened them, but all is well. That made me laugh a little.
That was so great.
That's so cute. Mine is, what am I most looking forward to? So one of the things that I'm most looking forward to that I'm also a little nervous about is stepping back in the classroom, because I step back into it next week with teachers' meetings. And just shout out to my husband, who it is a boiler here, and there's not air conditioning in my room turned on yet.
Classroom.
And in my classroom. And so we go over there, my husband and I, to start setting up my classroom, and we're in there less than an hour, and I mean, sweat is just dripping from each of us. And he's just been such a trooper going over there and helping set up how I want my walls to look, and we put a new desk in there and all kinds of stuff like that. So just shout out to him. But I'm really, really looking forward to getting that all in place. And it's been,
Just a
16
minute.
years since I've been in the classroom.
Oh my gosh,
so,
that's great.
I'm a little wondering if
So
what all of
everything
that's
is
gonna look
exactly
like.
the same
Oh, well, then
today
that's
as
awesome
it was
then.
16
Nothing
years
to worry
ago.
about. I'm ready
Yes.
to go.
Yeah.
Let's start tomorrow.
Last time you taught, I don't think kids had phones like they do today.
Not like they
didn't-
do
they
today.
didn't have
It was,
smartphones.
a few kids had one here or there,
Right.
so, but it was not like every
Full-on
kid has
electronics.
one. Yeah.
Full-on
So,
electronics.
yeah.
Well,
it's going to be
you're gonna
a
do
brave
fantastic.
new world.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Mine is biggest accomplishment of the week, and that is that I actually came home from Maine.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was touch and go.
Yeah, we were a little nervous if we were going to have to go, up
Get
there,
her.
kidnap her or what. So
That was my biggest
which we would have
accomplishment.
done.
But
sure,
I'm
yeah.
so glad you did.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I did too.
Yeah, me too.
So love you guys.
So our book for next
Next week's call, which Patty will not be here
I
for.
won't be able to be here.
she's flying away on a
Yeah.
jet plane.
Yeah.
I don't know what song that is, so I
just
can't
made it
even.
up. I know.
I can't
I
even
made
join
it up.
in.
My students will tell you I make up songs on
All
the fly all the
Yeah.
time. So
So they will be talking about the book, the
Book Woman of Troublesome Creek. I hope you're reading it.
oh, good.
Yes. So
Plenty of time to still read it if you haven't, or listen to it. It's going to be a great conversation.
And you will learn so much.
Yeah.
I learned so much.
yes. So thank you for
Yep.
for stopping by today. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for your
Thank
comments.
Bye.
See you
Good
later.
to be back. Love you guys.
Thanks for listening to It's a Great Day to Talk.
Be sure to follow and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform.
And until next week,
Get out there and talk.
This has been a production from a podcast studio.